Argent Alpha Unscripted with Clint Murray and Brock Harling. Welcome, guys.
Hey,
Hey there. Good
How
morning.
goes the battle today?
good.
Amazing.
Excited to get back into our podcast here. We had a week off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just posted one today with Sherwood Algier, who's a descendant of Horatio Algier, who wrote the Rags to Riches books, and it's where the whole concept of the American Dream came out of.
Mhm.
Was his I think it was a great great uncle. But anyway, it's a really interesting one. And then last week was Derek Baldwin on United Defense Tactical. So we're back to the tried and true with the three of us. Um, and hey, I want to talk today about whether it's the in-body scan, it could be a DEXA, but we use the in-body scan, but body composition. And I want to arm guys with some why we like this tool and deep dive on a lot of the elements. But before we go into that, I want to zoom out a little bit and share. Whoops, wrong screen. Let me get the right screen to share. I want to share some stats here. You guys see this okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is just zooming out, just looking at these stats are drawn from the US. 68% of Americans right now are overweight or obese. By the end of the decade, it's going to be 75% overweight or obese. Um, about half of those, 50% will be obese. So it's funny, there's an interesting stat. The overweight section is dropping, and that might sound good. It's not good. It's because they're becoming obese. That's why the
Mhm.
overweight portion is starting to shrink. Um, People on average are spending the last 12.4 years of their life sick or disabled, worst in the world. So that's roughly 20% of your life, maybe a little bit less, spent in a state of decline. 90% of US healthcare costs are driven by chronic disease, half of which are preventable. And I think a lot of that half might be low. I think it could be even higher than that are lifestyle driven. 42% of adults 65 plus are on five or more prescription drugs, which is just insane. And last I checked, Big Pharma still has not cured a disease.
Yeah.
So, sarcopenia, fancy word for the natural loss of muscle as we age. 3 to 8% of muscle is lost per decade after age 30. So everybody thinks it's like an old person's disease. It's starting earlier and earlier, as young as 30. 30% of total muscle mass lost in a man's life, 30%. So if you had 100 pounds of muscle when you were 30 years old, you're down to 70 maybe when you're probably roughly a 7-year-old man. Um, anyway, and then current, I would go with the last one. Current male life expectancy, 76.5,
Mhm.
which we've all been told like, well, we're living longer. It's like, yeah, not really. We're actually now living less since COVID started. That life expectancy has dropped. And then that doesn't measure the quality of those years. Again, about 20% of those years, your last years are spent in a state of decline. And
Mhm.
so with that in mind, now that's the zoom out macro stuff. Let's look at the in-body and talk a little bit about that. Brock, you and I first met, one of our first members, Steve Sefton, who joined in the September of 2022.
Mhm.
I think I sent him a link how to find an in-body scan nearest you. He must have put in his zip code. At the time, he lived just west of your location. And he comes in, does a scan, and the next thing you know, I had an email from a guy named Brock Harling. I'm going, who the hell is
Mhm.
this guy? But I mean, that was literally our connection was the in-body
Yeah.
scan, is what brought us together.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's changed my world, that in-body scan or that in-body machine.
Well, you again talk a little bit about um, before we get into Argent Alpha and how we use it. Talk about in your gym how you've used. I think you've got the InBody 570 model.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, talk about how you guys use it in your gym and with your members and your clients.
I mean, it's the thing I love about the InBody, it tells exactly the story or within a very close percentage of what's actually going on. So instead of I got on the scale, I'm up 2 pounds, I'm down three, I'm up, like like people used to, or a lot of people still do, is like that is their barometer for success in the gym and how they work out and whatever else they're working on in their health. And it's not an accurate assessment whatsoever. We've had a ton of people that come on the InBody and they're like, oh, gosh, I'm up in weight. This is going to be a bad. And then you look, and all of a sudden they've stacked on muscle mass. They've dropped 2% body fat percentage. It's like, oh, okay. Well, I guess weight isn't the only indicator. So it tells the accurate story. And then I mean we're going to go through a bunch of the metrics here, I'm sure, but I love it for that. It's just the accuracy of what's actually going on.
Mhm. And Clint, you've said before that you call the scale a liar. Tell us a little bit what you mean by that.
Yeah. And I was introduced to the InBody when I started in Argent Alpha too. I hadn't had one before that. So, um, but yeah, what I do know is that this is all progress starts with the truth. The InBody is the first one of the first truths that we talk about in Argent Alpha. And until you know the truth, you just don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And so people are jumping on the scale all the time. Oh, I lost 5 pounds. I lost 20 pounds. It was probably mostly muscle because you did the traditional dieting and you starved yourself and you didn't train or you didn't build muscle. You lost muscle and now you're skinny fat. So when people are excited about pounds off on the scale, yeah, it's a metric, but it's not the truth. Being skinny fat is not anything to aspire to. Just because you can tighten your belt doesn't mean you haven't lost muscle, doesn't mean you're not going through all the things you showed on the slide. So the scale's a liar. You
Not to
can't,
mention, how are you feeling?
yeah.
You're feeling like you're feeling terrible. You're not feeling
Yeah,
any
and
better, really.
sometimes I guess we can get you can get feeling you think you feel better because the scale's down, but again, it's not the truth. It's a liar. So,
Well, Brock, you bring up a good point. Let's step away from the in-body device for a second. Let's talk about why is it important, especially for men over 50? Why is skeletal muscle mass even important? Why is body fat important? Why is visceral fat important? And how do some of those things tie into what you said? How do you feel? How do you perform? Because I think a lot of guys, before we get into the tool, zooming out and saying like, why do these things even matter? And so talk a little bit about from your perspective why those things we talked about there, why are they relevant to men over 50?
I mean, muscle mass is stacking on muscle. It is the correlate between every other metric on the in-body scan. But like how you feel confident, you feel capable, you feel more stable, you feel less likely to be injured, and just like you can watch how people carry themselves, like that when they're stacking on muscle, opposed to like what Clint just described. Yep, I lost a whole bunch of weight, mostly muscle mass. I mean, you feel more frail. Your energy level isn't there because you're not burning as many calories. You just feel like junk. But it's like, well, I got that number to go down on the scale, so I mean, I got a little bit of a boost in my confidence, but not really.
Well, and I think the typical guy, not an Argent Alpha member, but the typical guy, when he achieves that, he's done two things. He's starved himself, and he's probably started running, or
Cardio blasted himself. Yeah.
some sort of chronic cardio, which
mhm.
leads to the loss of muscle, which leads to lethargy, which leads to reducing metabolism. Clint, I mean, you're kind of our resident. You're known as our nutrition guy. You're the blueberry and sardine master. Insiders will know what that means.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but talk a little bit about muscle and maybe without. I mean, we're not science guys.
yeah.
But how it correlates to metabolism and why losing weight is a bad thing, but adding muscle is a good thing as it relates to metabolism.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just try and throw some stuff out there because I'm definitely no expert and I forget a lot of stuff. And that's why I just simplify it. Like eat sardines and blueberries, like you can't go wrong, as simple as can be. But I mean, building muscle increases your resting metabolic rate. You need um, I mean, muscle is life, right? And you need to fuel that muscle. To keep muscle, to build muscle, you need to fuel. So the chronic dieting doesn't work. And you guys know me, and it's kind of a joke, but I want to eat like a teenager. Like I love to shovel it in. And the more muscle I have, the more I can do that. And it's just like fueling clean fuel in a high performance engine. And you want to keep it building. So I don't think that was a great answer, but that was kind of my scientific look at it. Like, build muscle, fuel it clean, um, it'll burn fat much quicker. So, a lot of times we see guys, that, you talked about starving. Well, now they're in a metabolic dysfunction. Their body is just not, it's not metabolizing the food that it does eat. And, then we're talking about glucose storage and fat and everything else. So, um, the muscle, insulin sensitivity, just all around aging, better outcomes, so
Well, I think
don't worry, Clint. You do eat like a teenager, by the way.
yeah,
And you're one of my favorite people to hang out with because I could just go toe to toe with you and we could just eat away
yeah,
and yeah, and go work out after and
well,
have a
I
fun
got to
time.
clarify this. If that teenager is eating whole foods,
yeah,
nutritious foods,
yeah,
not a teenager who's eating ultra processed food like substances. So
right. Thank you.
anybody
Yeah.
listening, this is what these guys are talking about. Um, so let's use a couple examples. So everybody here's probably heard of or maybe even watched The Biggest Loser. And there's a study that came out that showed every one of those people in the study, except one, went back to their previous weight, if not higher, because what the typical Biggest Loser thing is cut calories dramatically, exercise the heck out of them, and they drop weight, but they're you talked about the RMR, the resting metabolic rate, that just keeps going down. It really has sometimes permanently and negatively impaired their metabolic system, their
Yeah.
metabolism. And so if a guy starts out needing 2,000 calories just to survive, and he goes into this extreme dieting, he might now need 1,700. So if he does eat 2,000, his former number, he's going to gain weight. And so then there's a cycle. Now he's got to go down to 1,500 not to gain weight. And just it's this cycle that goes the wrong way. And it's not intuitive. You kind of think, well, if I eat less, I'll
Yeah.
lose weight. It's like, well,
Mhm.
no, you're going to starve the engine.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if we need to go any deeper on that, but that's one of those things. We had a guy, and Brock, you probably know what I'm talking about. He came in doing the work 5 days a week, 1,200 calories because I think the VA told him to be on that diet, and he was 28% body fat. And we said,
Mhm.
we're going to tell you to do two things. We're going to tell you to eat more and work out less. And he thought we were crazy. And sure enough, he started doing it, and his body comp started going the right direction because he
It
had,
was immediate, like almost immediate. I mean, within a week or two, he had already dropped a couple percentage points, like from eating more protein. He's like feeling great, sleeping better. It's like I'm not just in that like constant like fatigue mode.
yeah. And well, yeah, yeah, you're right. Doesn't, we're not even talking about the energy levels and sort of this, the mojo hormones, how hormones are affected by bad eating habits or positive eating habits. Um, All right, let's see. So let's go back to the InBody scan and talk a little bit about that. I'm gonna pull up mine because mine is. Can you guys see it right now?
Oh my gosh, 99 in body score. That's incredible.
Well, I'm pulling up mine because it's the worst of the three of us. Um, so anyway, this is just to give you guys an idea. Yeah, that's a little humble brag. This one's from October. I think my most recent was I couldn't find it. It's on my phone. Was a 96. But anyway, here's the key things we look at, and I don't know if hopefully people can see this, but we don't look at BMI. This thing right here, BMI is BS. Like at 28.3, my BMI, I think that would say I might be obese according to this,
Yeah.
Hmm.
if not pretty damn close. But my body fat here is 14.5%, which is right just barely below our where we want guys to get to 15%. And so this is like, so I'm 6'1", and this as of this one is 214 pounds. And we know a lot of guys who come into the program, they might be 6'1", 214 pounds who are 30% body fat. They might have 85 pounds of muscle mass. I think right here I came in at 104, which
Hmm.
at age, I was almost 61. This was an all-time high for me since I've been tracking this. So you can add muscle as you age. But talk a little bit about BMI. Uh, I know it stands for body mass index. It should be BSI, bullshit index. That's kind of what it is, but it's a population health metric that's maybe good when you're looking at the entire US population or a state. But Brock, what do you what I don't know if you come across people who are asking about their BMI and you have to re-educate them a little bit.
I mean, it's probably the, you look at some of the metrics on here. where it has come up, it's been very little, but it's the one that they understand, because it's what their doctor talks about, and it's the same type of mental poisoning that gets them to pay attention to only their weight, but it's like it is irrelevant. I actually don't even I think that that's about as far as I go when I talk about BMI. Like it's completely irrelevant, like look at all of your metrics on there. You're booming off the charts in every way that you want to, and you're still obese there. Like,
So
doesn't even make sense.
Right.
here's a quick stat on BMI I just pulled up. It was created in the 1800s by a statistician, not a physician. It was designed to measure population trends, not individual health. That gives you everything you need to know how much you should put into BMI, because we always talk about the fair crowd and the people that are at the state or county fair. That's the population. So
Yeah. So
yeah.
the other thing too, I mean, I think the numbers we talk about, and Clint, you were the one that turned me onto this because I was on the old InBody 270, which does not have visceral fat. I'm now
Yeah.
on the 580, which is pretty similar to the 570, both of which have visceral fat. And we talk about this as the dangerous visceral fat that can kill guys. And you want a single digit reading. Um, Educate us a little bit more about visceral fat and why it's an important metric for us to be paying attention to.
Again, I'm just going to kind of throw it out there. I'm not scientific at all, and I can't remember most of what I ever knew. But I mean, that's really visceral fat is the dangerous fat. We have the subcutaneous, which gives us the muffin top and the belly fat, things like that. And the visceral fat is what's covering your organs, and it's just really one of the roots of disease and all inflammation and the things that we're staying away from. So. That's about as high level as I can go right now off the cuff, but I know we're just looking to always reduce visceral fat or get it, as low as we can. I saw in your 580, you have the where it actually measures it, and I have the 570 where it just shows the graph, So I think really the overall body fat, as we reduce that, we see visceral fat go down. And you guys know I'm kind of on an experiment now to see how I can reduce more visceral fat, just at least kind of on its own using different zones of training and things like that. So um, it's the
Yeah.
dangerous fat that's the key element.
Yeah, so we talk about on a 570, it might be between levels 1 and 9, single digits, that's healthy. On the 580, they measure it a little differently. I think mine was at 70 point something. That's like a 7 on the
Mm.
570. So for me, that's one of those things like, okay, I want to get down to 5. Clint, I think you're at a what, 3?
I'm at a 3, yeah.
3, yeah. And so, but what if here's the danger of it. If you're in double digits, it's high visceral fat's linked to cardiovascular disease, insulin resistance,
Yeah.
inflammation, hormonal disruption. And again, your doctor's probably not talking about this, but those if you notice anybody that has that gut that's rock hard, that's just probably loaded with visceral,
Mm.
Yeah.
and it's like a ticking time bomb is a way to think of that. Uh,
Right.
and Brock, I don't know, do you guys when you're doing scans, are you focusing on visceral fat at all with your members and your clients?
Just kind of briefly describe it to them, because I have a fair amount of people that come in that are overweight or obese, and it's like, well, I'm at a 20, and like we're talking about getting down to single digits is kind of our target. It's not super motivating. I just kind of explain what it is. It's that scary fat that surrounds your organs, kind of what Clint said. But as they start to see trends changing in their muscle mass and segmental analysis and body fat percentage, body fat mass coming down, I look at it a little bit more. But yeah, typically it's super high level.
Okay. Hey, so in the last section here, I want to talk about. I think we talked about this a while back, but there's 3 rooms. Think of them as rooms that impact these numbers we're talking about, and the rooms are the kitchen, the gym, and the bedroom.
Mm.
So the bedroom is where you recover and actually build muscle while you sleep. The kitchen is where you feed the muscle with nutrition, and the gym is where you train it, break it down, and create the stimulus that will then allow those other 2 factors to kick into play. And so think of it as a triangle, and you need all 3 to improve your body composition, build skeletal muscle mass. And it came up recently, I think it was in our Monday morning meeting. a lot of guys love to train upper body and they're missing the lower body. And it's like if you don't work the large muscle groups that are below at the waist and below, it's just an uphill struggle. Like I always joke, you're not going to get to 15% body fat with tricep kickbacks. Yeah, you're not going to get there. Squats, deadlifts, trap bar deadlifts, lunge, forward lunges, reverse lunges, side lunges, Bulgarian split squats. I mean, wall sits, air squat. There's so many ways to do it. But Brock, talk a little bit about those three rooms, those the three parts of it, how they work together.
I think you said it really well there. It's a balance of that, and when one of them or multiple of them are off, it's really hard, if not impossible, to impact um, y- your your scores or your muscle mass, your body fat percentage, or people get so one dimensional. Like, I mean, when people think of health, they almost always think about fitness, and I'm going to outwork everything else that I can do. And you'll see them top out on those areas. And then they're just like a lot of the metrics on there plateau because they're ignoring the nutrition or the recovery piece. And when they start really honing in on one of those two, you see things start to move on there. And so it's a really, really cool thing to watch people just kind of like wrap their mind around, okay, that's actually making a difference in there. And what I love about what we have the guys do in this group is like they test it every single month, and so usually we have some initiatives, or like when we're on there, I'll be like, okay, we have this segmental analysis that shows you, upper body strength, trunk, and then lower body strength. And a lot of times I give them, here's specifically what we want to focus on for the next month. And then to watch them do it on that month, or, they got a couple months of it and see that trend over time, there's like, okay, this totally makes sense. Sorry, I'm going on a tangent here, but we talk about what does success look like. A lot, that's the phrase that I use almost every single time. Hey, you know what success looks like this next month? We're going to go after that skeletal muscle mass. Here's how much protein to eat. Here's specific movements, if you're training with me or on your own. But then we want to see that body fat percentage come down a percent and a half, or see that muscle mass go up a pound. Like that's what success looks like for you, or whatever it is, from individual. But that's the part where, I got guys that are like, okay, I don't even know what you're talking about, but I'm just going to do what you're saying. And then they're like, hey, I remember when you said that. And now I'm actually feeling that. And then they see it happen again the next month. It's like, okay, it's like that confidence shift you see in them that, no, this is actually putting the inputs in place to affect change.
Mhm.
I don't even know if I answered what you asked.
Yeah, no, it's
I
good.
think the monthly InBody scan, to your point, Brock, too, what you just said kind of sparked this, is when you see your weight go up, your muscle mass go up, and your body fat go down, that kind of like something clicked, right? Oh, I weigh more than I did last month, but I've got more muscle and less body fat. That's when you really it starts to create an arc, and you go, okay,
Mhm.
now I understand how all of this plays together. So,
Well, it's
yeah,
funny. So the nutrition, recovery or sleep, nutrition, and training, um, when they're going the wrong direction, because it's usually they all go hand in hand, one way or the other. So the guys
yeah,
coming in at 25, 30%, 35% body fat, they're not sleeping well at all. They're eating like crap, and they have no training, no approach to training.
yeah,
Almost verbatim, we'll see that. Now you might see some guy who's quote unquote working out, but then upon further examination, it's like, yeah, they're going to the gym, they're doing some things, something's better than nothing, but they're putting in the work without the results. And so
yeah,
it's almost wasted. But when you get them aligned, then things just go the other direction and they cascade the other way. You sleep better, so you have more energy to go hit the gym harder, and then you have an appetite and you feed it with good foods, and that muscle mass starts building, and it just goes the other direction. And
yeah.
so, and I think that's the key things. And before we move on here, I mean, let's talk a little bit about the role alcohol plays, because that's a factor somewhere along your body composition journey. If you like to enjoy a cocktail or two, um, which I mean I do, but way less than I used to, because I realized in my own journey there's a point where it became an obstacle. It's like if I
Mm,
wanted to get to 15%, I was going to have to make a change there. And so we don't tell anybody you can't drink in Argent Alpha. We just say, like, you're going to discover along this journey, at some point, you're going to ask yourself, is this helping me or hurting me? And then you get to decide what you want to do with it. And I know you guys have got your own points of view. Clint's more like the come down hard guy. Brock's a little probably more,
Yeah.
hey, it's your choice guy. But Brock, what's your advice to people with alcohol?
What do you want? You know, like what is your goal with this? You know, do you want to live life? Do you want to have fun? And it's like, I mean, it comes down to your definition of fun. You know, like you see so many people they'll they'll do everything they'll eliminate everything else or get everything else in line except for that one thing that they really don't want to get rid of. And you see people working really hard and then they stall out for months and they're just like, I cannot move this. I'm working harder. I'm eating more. And it's like, that's a lot of times where they're like, you think it's the alcohol? I'm like, yeah, I do, and then you watch them, they'll either do the dry January or, do something like that. And then all of a sudden they move the needle and they see that tick there. But, it's a decision. There's a lot more things involved than just the metrics on the scale. And, like you got to make that decision yourself. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Clint, anything you'd add off the top row?
My opinion, yeah, I mean, I get it. I'll probably have an unpopular opinion, but the analogy I always like, and this works with food too, and I heard it 30 years ago, but just, it's like the dog poop on the plate or whatever. How much can I eat and still be okay, right? How much neurotoxin can I put in my body and still be okay? That's your decision, That's how I don't think it's necessarily bad and there's a place for it, but it's just like how much can I do and still get away with it is kind of the game you're playing there. So
Yeah, I think I know for me where I used to play these games and maybe sometimes do, but not nearly as much is this whole like I'll work harder, I'll eat a little less to accommodate. And again, that will work to a certain degree,
yeah.
depending on what your goals are, to your point, Brock. But if your goals are to get down to, I think my best was 2023, I got down to 10% body fat just to see what it was like. And I know, Clint, you live there at or near that year round. Um, and it was like, all right, I did it. But if I want to have a cocktail or two on the weekends, that's where I shifted to. I was like, I don't need it every night. I've substituted out. I love hop water.
Mm.
It's 0 calorie sparkling mineral water with what's in it again? It's got what's that one? Ashwagandha, I think, is in it, and
Oh yeah.
L-theanine, and then hops. So it's got this hoppy flavor, and it's the sparkling part. So Mountain Valley water, Pellegrino, something with a little bit of flavor in it, like almost always does the trick. And so
Yeah.
you can find substitutes. You don't have to just go cold turkey. And maybe we'll do another podcast just about alcohol at some point. But I know it's a common factor that we've got a couple of our members who are just like they'll go do rim to rim or something crazy on the physical side, but they won't give up the alcohol and they haven't fixed their diet and they're still at 26 to 30% body fat.
Yeah.
And those are the guys where you're like, oh my gosh, you've got so many things. If you could just get over those limiting beliefs and those habits. And I think we all agree it goes back to if they got a stronger future self, a shift of their identity, they'd probably unlock those gains. We all know, we all have about 5, 6 names that we won't name that we're rooting for those guys to make that decision.
Yeah.
I'll add something in here. We haven't said anything about morning routine yet. I don't know how else to wrinkle it in an InBody, but the alcohol the alcohol piece of this for me, it's like I haven't had a drink. I don't even know how many months it's been. It's been like over 2.5 years. Had none, and I just love feeling on. I love giving myself the best opportunity to just feel good when I wake up and like to be able to have my morning routine and just be clear headed, have that peace without just pushing through, like how many times, just got to get through today. And, I'm not going to drink today. So hopefully tomorrow I feel a little bit better. It's like, I prefer to just be on, and just to be at the top of my game. And, when you watch people who make choices like that, not to say you have to or anything, but it has such an impact on the scale more than a lot of other things that they throw at it.
Well, that's where I've been on the Aura rink since 2020, and seeing positive trend lines. So I'm not a newbie to the ordering. 2026 now, we're on day what, 61-ish or whatever March 3rd is. And I've bumped my sleep score up 2, my readiness score up 3, I think, and my stress factors are all improved over already pretty good numbers, in part because alcohol has dropped again, but I've incorporated breath work and morning light. And I feel different. I mean, I've not had this afternoon drag in 2026. And so the journey's never over, I guess is the point. I mean, I was operating just like Clint and you, Brock, at a pretty high level on the metric side, but there's always another level of
Yeah.
performance. And I think as you age, we keep looking for those ratchets to keep improving. Because we know there's a point where we will decline, right? When we're 90, we're not going to be performing like we are, for me at 61 and Clint late 50s, Brock at 40. But on a relative basis, the goal is to be highly functional, highly productive, highly relevant at every single age. And I think that's what I think when guys realize that ties into identity. What kind of
Hmm.
impact do you want to have? What's your purpose? How are you leading your family and your community and your friends? Those are those deeper questions that get into the identity that then end up driving a favorable in-body scan. So they are
Totally.
related. We aren't
Yeah.
talking about the mindset piece, but that's ultimately, you get that thing dialed in, all these numbers the friction just drops dramatically.
I, with you saying that and tagging off what Brock said, my thoughts are going um, to get, and I guess to tie it into the InBody, to just really continue to get your best InBodies and improve. It's about the daily decrease and not the increase. We're getting rid of the clutter, getting rid of everything that, instead of increasing or these things that I have to do, we're just removing the things that don't get us there, so
Yeah.
it all ties in.
Well, and the last thing too, just thinking about a couple of guys, top of mind, John, Brian, and Todd, and they know who they are. They're posting their scans every month. They're doing the work, and these guys are just our case studies on doing the right things. They've got positive trends,
Yeah.
month after month of positive trend lines going, and one's below 15%. The other two are on track to get to 15%. So don't worry about the number 15. It's your trend line that matters. And that's why we scan every month. Is when you scan every month and you follow our process, you won't drift, or you'll drift way less, I should say. And if you're at 30% body fat, that you've been drifting for probably decades. So you're
Hmm.
not going to undo it. It won't take decades to unwind it, but it's not going to happen overnight either.
Hmm.
That's why we have this daily, weekly, monthly cadence. And
Yeah.
so, and it works.
Can I say one more thing on InBody? Like, since we're on this, my favorite folks that walk in are the people that, are the chronic cardio folks, and they walk in, they're kind of carrying themselves well because they're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna nail this down. I'm gonna show you guys. I'm gonna like have one of the best scores you probably ever seen. And they come on there and like you just watch them just go, ooh. They just deflate. They're like, how can this be possible? I run 50 miles a week. I'm swimming all the time, and I'm on the bike, on the cycling bike, running or riding hundreds of miles every single week. And then you watch them, you look at their muscle mass, and they're either at 100% or lower, which means if you're underneath 100% on your, let's call it your lower body, means that your lower body is not strong enough to support your body weight, or the same with your upper body. And they're hovering right around that 100, and you watch those same people then start doing some sort of resistance training or strength training, and they can add muscle pretty dang quick. And then all of a sudden, immediately that body fat percentage starts coming
Yeah.
down, and they can add on muscle, and they got a real, like, the consistency basis, their cardiovascular health is really good, so they start to soar. And those are my favorite people to watch them just make that shift.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the truth. That's it. You can't deny the truth, once you jump on. So,
Well, again, back to, like, just to wrap this up, the reason we like this as a tool is when you use the tool to move towards that 15% body fat, your risks of every cause of death decrease, the quality of your life goes up, your functionality and ability to perform go up dramatically. And if you're a man over 50 or any age or any gender, why wouldn't you want that?
Yeah.
There's no benefits to being weak and fat. None. So
Zero.
call to
That's
action.
still my favorite line right there.
Well, I mean, I've used it on calls with guys like, hey, get out your pen, get out your paper, and you ready to take notes? Yep. Okay. Give me all the benefits of being weak and fat.
Yeah.
And it's again,
It's like that right there.
yeah, blank sheet. So the call to action, anybody listen to this, go on your Google machine, type in InBody scan near me, go find it. Brock, what do you charge for? I mean, you're probably representing the market. Do you charge per scan? Do you sell bundles or how do you do it?
$30 a scan or 4 for 100.
Okay. So low cost
Yeah.
once a month. So call it $25 a month. That's probably what, 4 trips to a Starbucks.
It's 2 IPAs right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, probably exactly. Yeah. So make that substitution. Go get your InBody scan. Start doing it every month. If you want to accelerate, join our free community. We'll get you started on all the right things, and then hopefully you'll upgrade into one of our more premium communities. So
Yeah.
that's it. Thanks, guys. We'll see you guys in our community, and appreciate all the interesting facts and tidbits. There's a lot to talk about. We could talk about like, well, the curves on the InBody, the D curve that you want,
Yeah.
the segmental analysis, the left right side imbalances, the upper body lower body imbalances. Those are kind of next level things, but body fat percent, visceral fat, skeletal muscle mass, focus on those, and you'll be in the money.
Yeah. For
All
sure.
right.
Nice. All right. See you guys.
Thanks, you guys. Talk to you
See you
soon.
guys.
See ya.